Today, October 27th, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Taking a look here at the infrared/visible satellite imagery. If you look closely, you can see some low clouds and actually some fog and even some light snow still flying across places of eastern Washington, Oregon, and you can kind of see this band of residual moisture moving across central Idaho, higher terrain on in through western Montana. We'll take a look at that. There is some snow falling off and on here across some areas of Spokane, some freezing fog as well. A little bit of fog looks like across some of the Willamette Valley out there in some of western Washington. Nice and sunny at my house though right now, and a lot of this should be breaking up as we go through the day today. And if you look around, you can see we got freeze warnings all over the place. If you guys wake up and went outside this morning, notice it's nice and chilly even at my house here kind of near the Seattle metro. I'm at 33 degrees, and you can see some of these temperatures we go through Saturday, Sunday, some teens even showing up in some lower 20s. So definitely a hard freeze incoming here, and then eventually starting to modify as we get towards the mid and later portion of the week upcoming as we move on into early November. This is Spokane. These are raw observations here, and you can see light snow kind of off and on this morning here, and temperatures below freezing. It could be very slick out there, and there's probably some freezing fog out there as well. So again, very slick out there across some of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. And this is a freeze watch here. This is Seattle National Weather Service here. So yeah, we got some pretty chilly temperatures coming here over the next couple of nights. This is for the central Idaho and western Montana. You can see it includes Missoula there, and you can see Grangeville and Lowell out there as well. Again, across the higher terrain, we got some residual moisture moving across the area here. And it shows up quite nicely on the NAM3 cam. And you can also see some of this light snowfall across some of eastern Washington and probably up against the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon as well. Not expecting big amounts here, but sometimes just a little bit is all it takes to make things very slick. And you can see that moisture as I scroll backwards here. You can kind of see it moving across Montana, some bands moving across Yellowstone there as we go on in through tomorrow morning. But you can see things drying out as we go on in through the weekend coming up here. Then our eyes turn towards the Pacific systems trying to return from the west. This is the parent temperature of the NAM3KM. If I put this into motion, you can see the pretty chilly temperatures out here. Look at even across some of the North Cascades and BC, some areas it feels like below zero out there. And as I scroll backwards, you can see some of the very chilly temperatures across eastern Washington, Oregon, the Cascades as well. Put that into motion. You can see us warm up a bit here, but with the wind and a really dry air mass across western Washington, you can see things don't really get out of the lower 40s here as far as apparent temperature. Warmer across the Willamette Valley and some of the Oregon coast, but as you go through the overnight hours tonight, check it out. It gets nice and chilly again here across the region. Some of the Willamette Valley probably going to drop below freezing, and some of western Washington likely as well. You can see some of the apparent temperatures towards Moses Lake, 15 degrees, and some single digits showing up there for eastern Oregon as well. So yeah, pretty chilly here in the next couple of nights before we start to modify next week, but this would be Sunday morning shown there as well. Now looking across Idaho and Montana, and again, when you see these whites showing up there, that is below zero wind chill apparent temperature out there, and you can see the overnight lows of this very cold air mass, especially across the higher terrain of Oregon, Idaho, and Montana here as we go into the early morning hours. So yeah, pretty chilly stuff. Nice Arctic air mass. This is 80-meter wind speed, and you can kind of see we had the Fraser River outflow going a bit this morning here. Some north winds down the sound. You can see the easterlies coming across the Oregon coastal range there and the Cascades. You can see the Okanagan River gap here. This is actually a cold air conduit, kind of a valley that reaches all the way up towards the interior of British Columbia. And you can see kind of those north winds as we go through the day today, continuing to move down and then across the region here. A little bit of a secondary shot of Arctic air, going to make things chilly on in through next week across much of the area. Now, taking a look at the wider view of things, this is the GFS last night, and you can see Washington is here. There's Alaska, the Hawaiian Islands, and to the far left is Japan. And if we put this into motion, actually, let me tell you what we're looking at here first. 200 millibars, you're up towards 39,000 feet in the atmosphere. What we're watching for is the jet stream, and will it return to the Pacific Northwest? Are we going to get some stormy conditions into early November? So putting this into motion, you can see the ridge finally breaking down as we get towards this is Halloween evening shown there, and you can see the jet stream making its way across Pacific Ocean here and trying to bring some storms and some warmer and wetter weather here back to the Pacific Northwest. You can see this would be Gulf of Alaska troughing getting going, and this is the ensemble mean, so kind of an average of all 30 ensemble members on the GFS. Pretty good agreement that we are going to return to some stormy weather as we go on in through early November. This is looking at mean sea level pressure. Hawaiian Islands bottom left. There's Washington, California here, and you can see Montana also. If we put it into motion, you'll notice that high pressure kind of sliding down across some of the Great Basin here, that Arctic high taking up shop across much of the Intermountain West. That's going to bring some strong offshore winds all the way down through California. And finally, that starts to move off as we go on in through next week. And that high pressure moves down across Texas, out over the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see some systems trying to return here to the Pacific Northwest. There's the initial one. And then we're looking at maybe a stronger round of storms here as we go on in through the November 4th, 5th time frame. This would be an interesting system, atmospheric river potential with it. As we scroll forward, maybe a nice low pressure system moving up near Vancouver Island. But we'll watch that. Like, for example, yesterday morning's European one had a very strong storm burrowing right into the Washington coastline there as well. So we'll watch these systems as we go. But yes, we are looking at a return to some active weather as we go on in through early November. This is the GFS also. So we're just kind of looking at things here. You can see an Arctic high with some snow out in front of it here, driving down across the lower 48 states. And as we go on into the early portion of November, you can see a frontal system coming through there on the 1st and the 2nd, and then maybe additional systems after that. This one has a nice atmospheric river look to it also. This would be on until all the way to next weekend here, but pretty good model agreement. Excuse me, in the return of some of these storms as we go on in through early November coming up here. So we'll continue to watch this day by day, and we'll start to compare the European and the GFS probably tomorrow to see what kind of storm systems are headed our way. And this is Seattle-Tacoma. You can see the high temperature is definitely well below normal for this time of year, and the overnight low is flirting with freezing here Saturday and Sunday morning, even for the Seattle metro. So you can imagine some of the outlying areas probably down into the 20s. As we go on in through the weekend coming up. This is Spokane. Check it out. You're looking at probably not getting some of the overnight lows are probably going to be below freezing, I should say, all the way through about November 1st, and then the warm-up starts to occur here, and we bounce even maybe a little bit back above average on in through the early portion of November. So Portland, something similar there as well, trying to get down towards freezing, but some of the Willamette Valley definitely going to get into freezing, maybe even some 20s also, and this is just for the Portland metro, so you can imagine and assume that the outside, the places just outside of Portland are definitely going to be below freezing. And this is for Bend, Oregon. Check it out, 1, 2, 3, 4 overnight lows here at least coming up, maybe 5 below freezing. And this is Lewiston, Idaho. You guys get the picture here. Is Boise, Idaho as well. Now, this is looking at Seattle-Tacoma. We're looking at 6-hour max wind gust here, so we're kind of doing a little bit of a fantasy windstorm hunt. But you can see the relatively benign conditions here all the way through about November 1st, and then the return to some blustery winds potentially, and a few intermixed bigger windstorms in here, including one on control member number 1, which purely fantasy forecast right now, but let's go ahead and look at it. You can actually pick that out. If I click on member 1, then we're setting ourselves up for it. And you can see November 5th here. Now we're looking all the way until November 6th. And look at that big low pressure center there. Strong pressure gradient there between Seattle and Portland. Purely fantasy windstorm at this point. But some of the models have been showing a stronger system rolling through here during that time frame. This would be quite a significant windstorm if that did occur. But purely fantasy, only entertainment for now. This is Quileute. You can also see that return of some active weather starting to show up for the Washington coastline there as well. And again, we'll continue to watch this day by day. 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. Check it out. The above average conditions look to return with some warmer and wetter systems here as we go into early November. You can see the CPC kind of predicting this and coming up with this precipitation amount above average as well. So yeah, they're on to the return of the westerlies and the warmer conditions, and that Arctic air mass will be a distant memory here through the early portion of November. 8 to 14 days, something similar there as well. And the experimental also has a risk of heavy precipitation. Now upgraded to moderate here as of yesterday. You can see it November 3rd through 5th, so expecting a stronger system at that time frame. And you can see it does include Western Oregon also. This is looking at the Vegetation Drought Response Index here. Just a reminder that things are still pretty dry out there as far as vegetation is concerned. You don't just get a rain and then all of a sudden all the trees are okay here. It takes a while for them to respond, and there was a lot of moderate and severe drought and pre-drought stress out there across Oregon. Washington, you can see, no different, and a lot of western Montana also, and a lot of Idaho, including much of the Panhandle with some pretty moderate and severe drought across much of the region there. So it does take a while because we are in a pretty good deficit across much of the area, especially over the last year. And it kind of shows up here. This is the last 3 months. We've been catching up for some areas. You can see Eastern Oregon, Washington, some areas are doing all right. But again, you can see some areas that have been pretty below normal, including a lot of the Cascades and Skagit-Whatcom County here. And Seattle's actually been catching up here a bit over the last 3 months as well. And Western Oregon not doing too bad over the last 3 months. So that's good news there. But if you look at the last 12 months from October 26th last year, you can see that we are still significantly below average here for a lot of Western Oregon, Washington, a lot of the Columbia Basin, the Panhandle, Idaho, and Western Montana as well. And you can clearly see where Tropical Storm Hillary gave that boost as it moved up across California through Nevada. But yeah, anyway, watch out if you guys are out and about there. That's, sometimes just the tiny amount of snow on the roadway can actually be worse than a few inches of snow. It can be very slick. Black ice out there, freezing fog, some light snow is falling. I was running some time lapses this morning. There's actually some steam fog coming across the Puget Sound. I can't remember the last time I had seen that. It's a pretty rare phenomena, but I'll try to put that on a video here as we go through the day later on. And yeah, so anyway, we'll continue to watch that storm track off in the future. Thanks again to all my members and subscribers. For those of you who come back and visit daily, you guys make this channel possible. So I will put a video out maybe today, if not probably tomorrow. And otherwise, I will talk to you guys in my daily briefing tomorrow, and hope you guys are having a good day.